The message spread through the station like fire through dry grass. The humans were coming. Velik stood at the observation window and watched the small ship approach. His thin fingers trembled against the glass. Around him, dozens of other aliens had gathered to see the arrival. Some whispered prayers, others simply stared with wide, fearful eyes. "They look so small," said Tola, a young female who stood near Velik. She was barely past her growth cycle, still curious about everything. "Their ship is tiny." "Do not let size fool you," Velik replied. His voice was soft, the way it always became when he was worried. "They come from Earth, a Class 12 death world." Tola had heard the stories. Everyone had heard the stories. Earth was a nightmare planet where the very air was poison. The gravity crushed bones. The water fell from the sky and burned the land. Creatures there killed each other constantly, and the humans had risen to the top of that endless war. The ship docked with a soft sound. Velik straightened his robes and prepared himself. As senior ambassador, he would be the first to greet them. He hoped he would not faint. The airlock opened. 4 figures stepped through. They moved with an easy grace that seemed wrong for beings from a heavy gravity world. They should have been stomping, breaking things, showing their power. Instead, they walked calmly, looking around with curious eyes. The one in front was a male. He had dark hair cut short and a face that seemed carved from stone. But when he saw Velik, he smiled. The expression changed his whole appearance, making him look almost gentle. "I am Captain Quan Teho," the human said. His voice was deep but controlled. "On behalf of Earth, I thank you for welcoming us." Velik found his own voice. "I am Ambassador Velik. The Galactic Council welcomes you." He paused, then added the formal words. "May your stay bring peace to all." Teho bowed his head slightly. "We hope so too." The other humans introduced themselves. Park Hana was a female with kind eyes and a warm smile. She was their medical officer, trained in the science of bodies and healing. Yoon Seok was tall and broad, built like a warrior, but he spoke politely and kept his hands visible at all times. Bayek Yuna was smaller than the others, with quick eyes that seemed to notice everything. As the group walked into the station, Velik noticed how the other aliens reacted. Some pressed themselves against walls to stay far away. Others watched from doorways, ready to run. A mother pulled her children behind her as if the humans might attack at any moment. The humans noticed this too. Velik saw Hana's smile flicker with something like sadness. "They are afraid of us," she said quietly. "Can you blame them?" Teho replied, equally quiet. "We would be afraid too in their place." Velik pretended not to hear this exchange, but it made him think. These creatures seemed aware of their own reputation. They seemed to care that others feared them. That was not what he had expected. The council had assigned Norris to study the humans. He was a scientist, old and experienced, with more curiosity than fear. He met them in their quarters that evening, carrying instruments and asking endless questions. "May I scan your bodies?" he asked. "For scientific purposes only. I wish to understand your biology." Teho looked at his crew. They shrugged. "Go ahead," the captain said. Norris worked for hours. With each discovery, his eyes grew wider. "Your bones," he said. "They are incredibly dense. You could fall from great heights and survive." "We break bones sometimes," Seok said casually. "They heal." Norris nearly dropped his scanner. "They heal? Broken bones?" "Given time, yes. Our bodies repair themselves." The scientist moved on, finding more impossibilities. Human blood carried a substance that trapped oxygen from the air. Their skin could repair itself from cuts and burns. Their hearts beat with a power that could sustain them through extreme physical effort for hours, even days. "Your bodies are at war," Norris finally said. He sounded disturbed. Inside you, right now, tiny organisms are fighting. Your immune system is destroying invaders constantly. Hana nodded. Yes, Earth is full of bacteria and viruses, things that want to live inside us. Our bodies learn to fight them. This is happening inside you now? As we speak? Every moment of every day, Hana confirmed. Since we were born. Norris set down his instruments. He looked at the humans with new eyes. Not just fear now, but a strange kind of respect. How do you survive? He asked. Your world sounds like a place of endless death. Tejo answered. We survive because we must, because we want to live, because we look at all the things trying to kill us and we say no, not today. Later that night, Valek visited the human quarters alone. He found Tai Ho sitting by a window, looking out at the stars. May I join you? Valek asked. Tejo gestured to a seat. Please. They sat in silence for a moment. Valek gathered his courage. I must ask you something, he said. The Council needs to know. Your people are powerful, perhaps the most powerful species we have ever encountered. What do you want? Why have you come to the stars? Tejo did not answer immediately. He continued looking at the distant lights, countless suns with countless worlds. On Earth, he finally said, we have a long history. We fought each other, we hurt each other. We nearly destroyed ourselves more than once. He paused. But we also built things, created art, wrote music, told stories. We fell in love. We raised children. We dreamed. He turned to face Valek. We came to the stars because we looked up and wondered what was out there. We came because we were curious. We came because we hoped to find others like ourselves. Not the same, but alike. People who look at the universe and feel wonder. Valek felt something shift inside him. This was not the speech of a conqueror. You want friends? He said. Tejo smiled. It was a real smile reaching his eyes. Yes, we want friends. We have been alone for so long, Ambassador. We survived our world. We survived ourselves. Now we want to know our neighbors. Valek looked at this human, this being from a death world, this creature of impossible strength and terrible origin. And for the first time, he felt something other than fear. He felt hope. Then let us begin, Valek said. Let us learn to be friends. But even as he spoke, he knew the road ahead would not be easy. Many on the station still saw the humans as monsters. Many would never accept them. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a small voice whispered that perhaps the fearful ones were right. Only time would tell. Days passed on the station. The humans settled into their quarters and began their diplomatic work. But the fear around them did not fade. It grew. Valek watched the council meetings with growing worry. Every session became a battle. Some ambassadors wanted to welcome humanity, others demanded their removal. A few suggested more extreme measures. They are dangerous, said Ambassador Kreven, a tall being with gray skin and cold eyes. We have seen the reports. Humans are predators. They hunt. They kill. They eat the flesh of other creatures. Many species eat meat, Valek replied calmly. Not like this. Humans pursue their prey for days. They do not stop. They do not tire. They chase until their target collapses from exhaustion. This is their nature. Do you want such beings walking among our children? The chamber erupted in worried voices. Valek tried to restore order, but the damage was done. The image of humans as relentless hunters had taken root in their minds. Meanwhile, the humans went about their daily lives, unaware of the growing storm. Yoon Seok found the station's exercise room. It was designed for many species, with equipment of various sizes. He began his morning routine, lifting weights and stretching his muscles. A group of aliens gathered to watch. They kept their distance, observing from the doorway. Sciac noticed them, but said nothing. He picked up a weight bar that was marked for heavy species only. The metal cylinder was designed for beings with 4 arms and dense muscle. Sciac lifted it easily. He did several repetitions, his breathing steady, his form perfect. The watching aliens went silent. "How much does that weigh?" one of them finally asked. Sciac checked the marking. "About 300 of your standard units. That is meant for construction workers, beings twice your size." Sciac shrugged. "Earth has heavy gravity. We grew strong." He put down the weight and moved to another exercise. The aliens continued watching. Some left quickly, fear written on their faces. Others stayed, fascinated by what they were seeing. In the medical bay, Park Hana was having her own encounter. A young alien child had fallen and hurt her arm. The station's doctors were busy with other patients. The child's mother looked around desperately for help. Hana approached carefully. "I am a doctor," she said. "May I help?" The mother pulled her child closer. Fear flashed in her eyes. "Please," Hana said softly. "I only want to help. I have treated many species. I know how to be gentle." Something in her voice reached the mother. After a long moment, she nodded. Hana knelt beside the child. Her movements were slow and careful. She examined the arm with practiced fingers, speaking softly the whole time. The child, who had been crying, began to calm down. "It is not broken," Hana announced. "Just a small injury. I can treat it now." She worked quickly but gently. When she finished, the child was actually smiling. "Thank you," the mother said. Her voice shook. "I was afraid. I know what you thought," Hana said kindly. "It is okay. We understand." Tola had been watching from nearby. She approached Hana after the mother and child left. "You were so gentle," Tola said. "The stories say humans are violent." Hana smiled sadly. "We can be violent, when we must be, but we can also be gentle. We choose what we want to be." Tola thought about this for a long time. In the engineering section, Beck Yuna was making discoveries that worried her. She had asked permission to study the station's systems, claiming simple curiosity, but what she found was not simple at all. "These power readings are wrong," she said to herself, looking at her scanning device. "The reactor core is under stress. The support beams in Section 7 show metal fatigue, and these safety systems have not been updated in cycles." She brought her concerns to the station's chief engineer, a round being named Gorath. "You are mistaken," Gorath said dismissively. "Our systems are perfectly safe." "I am not mistaken. Look at these readings. Your reactor is running too hot. Your structural supports are weakening. If something goes wrong, nothing will go wrong. This station has stood for 100 cycles. It will stand for 100 more. You humans think you know everything. You have been traveling in space for barely a moment. We have been here for ages." Yuna tried to argue, but Gorath would not listen. She was just a human, a newcomer, a being from a primitive world. What could she possibly know about advanced technology? Yuna left the engineering section with a heavy feeling in her chest. She reported her findings to Captain Tae-ho. "They will not listen," she said. "But something is wrong with this station. I can feel it." Tae-ho nodded slowly. "Keep watching. Document everything. And be ready." That evening, the council held a formal banquet to honor visiting diplomats. The humans were invited, though many wished they were not. The food was strange but colorful. Each dish was designed for different species, carefully labeled with ingredients and warnings. Ambassador Krevin approached the humans with a plate of small cakes. "Please," he said with a thin smile, "try these. A delicacy from my homeworld." Tae-ho accepted one. His crew did the same. They ate without complaint. From across the room, Norris watched with horror. He recognized those cakes. They contained a substance that was toxic to most carbon-based life forms. Even a small amount could cause death. He rushed forward, but he was too late. The humans had already finished eating. "What have you done?" Norris demanded of Krevin. Krevin's smile widened. "I have done nothing. I simply offered our guests a local treat." Norris turned to the humans, expecting to see them collapse. Instead, he saw Hannah wiping crumbs from her mouth. "Those were quite good," she said. "A bit spicy, but nice." Spicy? Norris could not believe what he was hearing. That substance is lethal to most species. Tejo raised an eyebrow. He looked at Krevin, understanding now what had happened. But his voice remained calm. "On Earth," he said, "we have many foods that other species would consider poison. Our bodies learn to process harmful substances. What kills others might only give us a slight stomach ache." Krevin's smile faded. His attempt to harm the humans had failed. Worse, it had revealed his true nature to everyone watching. The banquet continued, but the mood had changed. Some aliens looked at the humans with new fear. Others looked at them with something closer to wonder. These beings could eat poison and call it spicy. What else could they survive? The answer would come sooner than anyone expected. Deep in the station, hidden from view, the reactor core continued to overheat. Metal supports continued to weaken. And the disaster that Yuna had predicted grew closer with every passing hour. The humans went to sleep that night unaware that tomorrow would change everything. But they were ready. They were always ready. That was what it meant to come from a death world. The explosion came without warning. Tejo was thrown from his bed as the station shook. Alarms screamed. Red emergency lights painted everything in blood colors. Through the walls, he could hear more explosions, one after another, like a chain of thunder. He was on his feet in seconds. "Everyone up! Move!" His crew responded instantly. Siak grabbed his emergency pack. Hannah took her medical kit. Yuna was already checking her scanner. "The reactor," Yuna said, her face pale. "It failed. Just like I warned them." They ran into the corridor and found chaos. Smoke filled the air. Aliens ran in all directions, screaming, crying, falling over each other. The lights flickered. Somewhere nearby, a wall had collapsed and flames were spreading across the floor. An alien stumbled past them. Coughing, unable to breathe, the smoke was too thick for his species. He collapsed against the wall, his eyes rolling back. Hannah knelt beside him. "His respiratory system is failing. The smoke is toxic to his kind." "Can you help him?" Tejo asked. "I can keep him alive, but there will be more. Many more." Tejo made a decision. "Hannah, find a safe space. Set up a medical station. Treat everyone you can." He turned to Seok. "You and I are going into those fires. There are people trapped." Seok nodded without hesitation. "Yuna, get to engineering. If anyone can stop this from getting worse, it is you." Yuna gripped her scanner tight. "I will try." They split up. Tejo and Seok moved toward the flames. The heat hit them like a physical force. Any alien species would have been cooked alive in seconds. But humans had evolved on a world of deserts and volcanic zones. Heat was an old enemy, one they knew how to fight. "There!" Seok pointed. Behind a wall of fire, they could see figures moving, trapped aliens, unable to escape. Seok did not hesitate. He took a deep breath of the scorching air and ran through the flames. His clothes caught fire, his skin blistered. But he reached the other side and started pulling aliens to safety. Tejo followed. The pain was intense, but he had felt worse. On Earth, he had survived training exercises in burning buildings. He had marched through deserts. He had endured. One by one, they carried the trapped aliens through the fire. Some were unconscious. Some were burned. All of them would have died without help. "How are you doing this?" one alien gasped as Seok lifted her in his arms. "The heat should kill you." "Later," Seok grunted. "Questions later." In the medical area, Hana worked without rest. Aliens arrived in waves carried by friends, family, or strangers. Burns, broken bones, smoke damage, wounds from flying metal and falling debris. Hana treated them all. Her hands moved constantly, applying bandages, giving medicines, performing emergency procedures. When she did not know an alien's biology, she scanned them quickly and adapted. "You need to rest," said a station medic who was helping her. "You have been working for hours." "I will rest when everyone is safe," Hana replied. She did not stop moving. The medic stared at her. "Your species does not tire?" "We tire. We just do not stop." In the engineering section, Yuna faced her own battle. The reactor room was a nightmare of sparking wires. Burning consoles and failing systems. The chief engineer, Gorath, was dead, crushed by falling equipment. His staff had fled. Yuna stood alone before the reactor controls. The readings were terrible. The core was overheating beyond any safe limit. If it exploded, the entire station would be destroyed. Thousands would die. She needed to enter the core chamber and manually shut down the reaction, but the chamber was exposed to vacuum. The outer hull had cracked. Air was rushing out through the breach. Any alien would die in seconds. Yuna sealed her suit as best she could. It was a light suit, meant for minor repairs, not vacuum exposure. It would not protect her for long, but it might protect her for long enough. She opened the chamber door and stepped into nothing. The cold hit her first, then the pressure change. Her suit kept some air in, but she could feel it leaking. Her vision blurred. Her lungs screamed for oxygen. She had maybe 90 seconds before she lost consciousness. Humans could survive brief vacuum exposure. Their bodies would not explode like some species believed. But the damage would be severe. Yuna reached the manual controls. Her fingers were already numb. She worked by memory, hitting switches she could barely see. 70 seconds left. The reactor fought her. The system resisted shutdown. Error messages flashed across the damaged screens. 50 seconds. She overrode the safety locks, forced the cooling systems to activate. Watched the temperature readings slowly begin to fall. 30 seconds. The core powered down. The crisis was over. The station was saved. 10 seconds. Yuna collapsed against the console. She could not breathe. She could not move. But she had done it. Seok found her minutes later. He had forced his way through the damaged section, ignoring the cold and the thin air. He carried her back to safety, his own breath turning to ice in the frozen corridor. "You crazy woman," he said as he ran. "You could have died." Yuna managed a weak smile. Could have. Did not. Hours later, the fires were out. The survivors were gathered in the few safe sections that remained. The station was crippled, barely functional, but it was still there. Thousands of aliens were still alive, because of 4 humans. Velik found Tai-Ho sitting alone in a damaged corridor. The captain's arms were wrapped in bandages. Burns covered half his face. But his eyes were clear. "Why?" Velik asked. He could not understand. "Why did you risk your lives? These people feared you. Some of them hated you. Why save them?" Tai-Ho looked up at him. When he spoke, his voice was tired but firm. "Because they needed help. Because we could help. That is enough. But the danger, the pain, you must have known you could die." "We knew." Tai-Ho closed his eyes. "On Earth we have a saying, greater love has no one than this, to lay down your life for your friends. But these people are not your friends." Tai-Ho smiled through his burns. "They could be, someday, and that possibility is worth protecting." Velik stood in silence. He had seen many things in his long life. He had met many species, but he had never met anyone like these humans. They were everything the story said: strong, dangerous, impossible to kill, but they were also something the stories had never mentioned. They were kind. And that, Valek realized, was the most terrifying thing of all. The station was quiet now. The fires had died. The screaming had stopped. But the memory of that terrible night hung over everything like a shadow that would not fade. Tejo stood at the window of the temporary command center. Outside, repair ships moved slowly around the damaged sections. Half the station was gone, destroyed by the reactor failure. The other half was barely holding together, but it was still there. Against all odds, it had survived, and so had most of the people inside it. "Final count," Velek said, approaching with a data tablet. His voice was heavy. "We lost 47 souls. Without your crew's actions, we estimate the number would have been over 3,000. Tejo nodded slowly. 47 was still too many. Every death was a failure. A life he could not save. But 3,000 would have been a massacre. "How is Yuna?" he asked. "Recovering. Your Dr. Park says she will need several weeks to fully heal. The vacuum exposure damaged her lungs and eyes. But she will survive." "She always does." Across the station, the survivors were beginning to process what had happened. Recording devices had captured everything. The footage spread through the galactic network like wildfire. They saw Yun Seok walking through flames, his skin burning, carrying aliens who could not walk. They saw Park Hana operating on patients for 18 straight hours without rest, her hands never shaking. They saw Baek Yuna stepping into vacuum to save them all. They saw Captain Kwan Tae-ho leading the rescue efforts, never stopping, never showing fear. The galaxy watched. And the galaxy did not know what to feel. In the council chamber, the debate raged. "This proves nothing," Ambassador Kreven declared. He stood at his podium, his voice sharp with anger. "Yes, the humans saved lives, but look at how they did it. They walked through fire. They survived vacuum. They kept fighting when any normal being would have died. This is not normal. This is not natural. They are monsters wearing friendly masks." Some in the chamber nodded in agreement. "They are too dangerous," another ambassador added. "Today they saved us. But tomorrow? What happens when they decide to conquer instead of help? What defense do we have against beings who cannot be killed?" Valek rose to speak. "They can be killed. They are not immortal. They simply come from a world where everything tries to kill them. They evolved to survive. And that is supposed to comfort us?" Kreven shot back. "A species forged in death? They are predators. They see us as prey." "If that were true," Velek replied calmly, "then why did they risk their lives to save us? Predators do not sacrifice themselves for prey." The chamber fell silent. In the medical bay, Norris sat beside Park Hana. She was finally resting, forced to stop by her own crew. Even now, her eyes kept moving to the patients around her, checking on them, worrying about them. "I have studied many species," Norris said quietly. "I thought I understood biology, life, evolution. But you humans, you break every rule I know." Hana smiled tiredly. "We are just people, Norris. Flesh and blood. We hurt, we bleed, we die. But you endure. That is what I cannot understand. Your bodies are designed for suffering. Your world taught you pain from the moment you were born. How do you keep going? How do you not simply give up?" Hana was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft. "Because giving up is not in our nature. On Earth, the creatures that gave up died. They disappeared forever. Only the stubborn ones survived. The ones who looked at death and said not yet. That is who we are, Norris. We are the children of stubborn creatures who refuse to quit." Norris thought about this for a long time. The council reconvened for the final vote. Would humanity be accepted into the galactic community? Or would they be cast out, rejected, perhaps even declared enemies? Tai-Ho was called to speak before the vote. He stood at the center of the chamber, bandaged and burned, looking somehow both fragile and unbreakable. Hundreds of alien eyes watched him, some with fear, some with anger, some with curiosity. "I know what you see when you look at us," he began. His voice was calm, carrying easily through the vast space. "You see monsters, Deathworlders, beings from a nightmare planet who have no place among civilized species." He paused. "You are partly right. Earth is a harsh world. We are harsh people. Our history is written in blood. We have done terrible things to each other. Wars, cruelty, destruction. We are not innocent." Kreven smiled, thinking his point had been proven. "But we are also more than that." Tai-Ho's voice grew stronger. "We are the species that looks at the stars and wonders what is out there. We are the species that writes songs about love and paints pictures of beauty and tells stories about heroes who sacrifice everything for strangers. We are the species that teaches its children to be kind, to be brave, to stand up for those who cannot stand for themselves." He looked around the chamber, meeting every eye that would meet his. "Yes, we can be monsters. Any thinking being can be a monster. But we can also choose to be something better. And we have made that choice. We did not come to the stars to conquer. We came to learn, to explore, to meet others who share this universe with us." Silence filled the chamber. What happened on this station was terrible. Many lives were lost, but my crew and I did what we were taught to do. We helped, we protected, we served, not because we wanted something in return, but because it was the right thing to do. He straightened, standing tall despite his injuries. "You can reject us, send us away. We will go peacefully, but I hope you will not. I hope you will give us a chance to prove what we truly are. Not the monsters of your nightmares, but friends who will stand beside you when the darkness comes." He stepped back. His speech was finished. The silence stretched on. Then, from the back of the chamber, a small voice spoke. "I believe him." Everyone turned. It was Tola, the young alien who had watched the humans since their arrival. She stepped forward, her legs trembling, her voice shaking. "I saw them," she said. "I saw the big one carry burning children to safety. I saw the doctor heal our wounded with gentle hands. I saw them suffer and bleed and never stop. They could have run. They could have saved themselves, but they stayed." She looked at the council with young, earnest eyes. "Monsters do not do what they did. Only heroes do." The chamber erupted in whispers, but something had shifted. The fear was still there, but something new had joined it. Something like hope. The vote was called. The decision was not unanimous. Many still voted against humanity. But when the count was finished, the result was clear. Humanity was accepted. Tai-Ho closed his eyes. Behind him, his crew gathered close. They had done it. They had crossed the stars and found their place among them. The real work was only beginning. 6 months had passed since the day the station burned. 6 months since the vote that changed everything. And the galaxy was no longer the same. Quan Tai-Ho stood on the observation deck of the newly rebuilt station. It was larger now, stronger, designed with help from human engineers who had spent their lives expecting things to break. Through the great windows, he could see ships coming and going, dozens of them, from 100 different worlds. "Ambassador Tai-Ho," a young aide approached with a data tablet. "The council is ready for you." Ambassador. The title still felt strange, but it was his now, given by both Earth and the galactic community. He was the bridge between worlds, the voice of humanity among the stars. "I am coming," he said. The council chamber was full when he arrived. Representatives from across the galaxy had gathered to discuss the future. Many faces that had once looked at him with fear now nodded in greeting. Some even smiled. "We have received reports from the outer colonies," Velik announced. He had become one of Taiho's closest allies. "The situation is improving." The outer colonies had been suffering for years. Raiders attacked shipping routes. Pirates threatened settlements. The gentle species who lived there had no way to defend themselves. They had simply accepted their fate until the humans came. On a screen behind Velik, footage played. Human security teams moved through a colonial outpost, organizing defenses, training local volunteers, standing guard against threats. When raiders arrived, they found something they had never expected: resistance. The footage showed a battle. Laser fire everywhere, explosions in the distance, and in the middle of it all, human soldiers holding the line. They did not retreat. They did not flinch. They stood like mountains while the raiders broke against them. "The raider attacks have decreased by 70% in protected sectors," Velik reported. "The humans have made those zones simply too dangerous to attack." Across the galaxy, similar stories were unfolding. On a world called Vera 6, a plague had been spreading for months. The local doctors could not stop it. Species were dying by the thousands. Then a human medical team arrived, led by Park Hana. She had built a new life in the 6 months since the station disaster. Her small medical unit had grown into an entire organization. Human doctors, nurses, and researchers traveled to worlds in crisis, bringing knowledge and hope. The Vera 6 plague should have taken years to solve. The human team did it in weeks. They worked around the clock, studying the disease, testing treatments, refusing to rest until they found a cure. The alien doctors who worked beside them were amazed. "They do not sleep," one Vera 6 physician reported. "They say they are tired, but they keep working. How do they keep working?" Hana's answer was always the same. "Because people are counting on us. Because lives are at stake. Because we do not know how to quit." The cure saved millions. Hana became a legend. Though she never wanted fame, she only wanted to help. On the frontier stations, Yoon Seok had found his own calling. He trained emergency response teams, teaching aliens how to handle disasters, how to rescue survivors, how to keep going when everything was falling apart. His students were a mixed group, species that had never fought for anything in their lives. Beings from paradise worlds who had never known danger. They struggled at first. Many wanted to quit. Seok did not let them. "Pain is temporary," he told them during one brutal training session. "Failure is temporary. Giving up is forever. You can rest when you are dead. Until then, you move." His methods were harsh, but they worked. His students graduated as changed beings. They still feared fire and chaos, but now they ran toward it instead of away. "You turned us into humans," one graduate told him at the ceremony. Seok shook his head. "No, I turned you into survivors. That is something better than any single species. That is something we can all be." Baek Yuna had taken a different path. She led engineering teams across the sector, rebuilding old stations, upgrading failing systems, designing new structures that could withstand anything. Her philosophy was simple: expect the worst. "Every system will fail eventually," she told her crews. "Every structure will be tested. The question is not if disaster will come, but when. Our job is to make sure that when it comes, people survive." Her designs became famous for their strength. Stations she built survived accidents that would have destroyed older models. Ships she upgraded returned from missions that should have killed their crews. When asked about her success, she always gave the same answer. "On Earth, we learned to build things that could handle punishment, because everything on Earth punishes you. The weather, the ground, the animals, even the air. We did not become good engineers because we were smart. We became good engineers because bad engineering meant death." And young Tola, who had spoken for the humans in their darkest hour, had started her own journey. She was training to be a diplomat, learning the skills of negotiation and understanding. Her dream was to build bridges between species, to create connections that would make the galaxy stronger. She visited Taiho often, asking questions, seeking advice. "How do you do it?" she asked him one evening. "How do you keep believing in people, even after everything your species has suffered?" Taiho thought about the question for a long time. "Because we have seen the alternative," he finally said. "We have seen what happens when people stop believing, when hope dies, when everyone gives up on each other. We have been there, Tola. We have stood at the edge of darkness and looked down, and we chose to step back." He smiled at her. "Every day, I wake up, and I choose to believe that things can be better, that people can be better. It is not always easy. Sometimes it is the hardest thing in the world, but it is always worth it." Tola carried those words with her as she continued her training. They became her guide, her light in moments of doubt. The galaxy continued to change. Slowly, carefully, humans spread their influence, not through conquest, but through service, not through fear, but through trust. They became the ones who ran into burning buildings, the ones who stood against raiders, the ones who worked through the night to save dying worlds. They became the guardians they had always dreamed of being. One evening, Taiho stood on the observation deck again. A small alien child approached him, curious and unafraid. The child's species had once been among the most fearful of humans. Now their young ones played in the same schools as human children. "Are you really from a death world?" the child asked. Taiho knelt to meet the child's eyes. He saw no fear there, only wonder. "I am," he said. "Is it scary?" Taiho smiled. "Sometimes, but it taught me something important. It taught me how precious life is, every moment, every breath, every chance to help someone else." The child tilted their head. "Is that why you save people?" "Yes, because we know how easy it is to lose everything, and we never want anyone to feel that loss if we can prevent it." The child smiled back. "I want to be like you when I grow up." Taiho felt something warm in his chest. Hope, the most human feeling of all. "Then you will be," he said. "And you will be amazing." Outside the window, ships from 100 worlds passed by, carrying beings of every shape and size. They were all different. They all had their own stories, their own struggles, their own dreams. But they were no longer alone. The humans had come, and they had brought something with them that no other species had ever offered. They had brought a promise. "We will protect you. We will stand beside you. We will never give up." And the galaxy, for the first time in a very long time, believed them.